Okay, we're
All
little, but
right.
we're here.
All right,
We're,
look, it's OU Texas. They might as well take the front stage, and we get the lower stage. Let's go. We've made it. The Red River Shootout, ladies and gentlemen. We got
oh,
Oklahoma
there
and
we
Texas, yeah, on the floor of the Cotton Bowl coming up this Saturday. Randy Heitz, Dave Myrick of 1077 The Franchise, flagship of OU Athletics and Total Coverage Sports, and we're here to talk about the game, Randy. 2:30 Saturday. Texas limps in. The Walking Dead 3-2, unranked Oklahoma, big and bad 5-0, ranked sixth. I don't care. Throw that out the window. I think this is going to be a knockdown drag out on the floor of the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, no, I think it should be a lot of fun on Saturday, and I think each fan base has reason to be a little optimistic and also to be a little cautious going in. It's kind of one of those. It's a weird thing to me, at least. Like going into this, yeah, you've had years, Dave, where each team feels really good, because they're both really good. And this year, it's not like I don't think both are good teams. Like I think Oklahoma's good. Are they really the number 6 team in the country? We'll find out in due time. Is Texas really unranked? Should be unranked? I don't know. We'll find out in time. It's kind of the weird year. It's not like either team's bad. Neither team, I'm not sure, is great. So it's kind of like, what are we going to see on Saturday? It may be one of the most eventful Red River games we've seen in quite some time, to be honest, just for those factors.
Yeah, I agree, Randy. I mean, look, I got some stuff pulled up here. Useless stats. Both are top five in the country in total defense. Here's where it gets kind of tricky, though. Total offense: Oklahoma 50th, Texas 51st. So
Mhm.
that is where I can really see this game being kind of disgusting. If you're a defensive football purist, I think you'll dig it. If you like a lot of points, I don't think you're going to like this, Randy. Look, I think Oklahoma has some separation in places. I think their special teams are really good, not being talked about enough this year. Doing a great job flipping field position with punt returns, pinning people deep. Tate Sandell has been one of the hidden gems of the college football season. I mean, if they just go head up and no mistakes, I like Oklahoma to win, especially if number 10 is taking snaps like I think he will be. The problem is, we've seen this all year. Oklahoma gets in a spot where they're about to get some breathing room and separation, and they do something dumb like throw an interception or fumble the football. I think Oklahoma will do enough against that really good Texas defense, self inflicted, to keep Texas in this game down the stretch.
No, no, I think you're probably right. And to be honest with you, I was on with Jerry today for a little while, filling in while Daniel ran across the street to Thunder practice. And I told him, I said, what's really crazy? Yes, you want Mateer to play, no doubt about it, right? But what's crazy to your point about self-inflicted wounds and interceptions, not that he's went out and thrown a ton, because Mateer's played great. I almost feel better about ball control and maintaining it if Michael Hawkins is one in the game. If you're looking to say like this game's going to be a 9-6 game,
Yeah,
I think you're going to have to score more points than that. So yeah, you want material in there, but I'm just saying
yeah.
ball control. I feel like hey, maybe Hawkins they play a little more conservative game and everything like that, but you got to go material. And I'll say this: you mentioned special teams, Dave. It is going insane because if they had that special teams this year, if they had them last year that they had on this year's team with Sandell last season, who knows? All of a sudden maybe it's 9-0 going into halftime, and that gives a different attitude going into the second half of that game last year. I mean, special teams in this game is so vital. I mean, we've seen it year in and year out, whether it's Aubrey or Dicker the kicker, from Texas, just killing you with unusual kicks or strong-legged kicks. It's such a vital part that almost gets forgotten about until, well, you wind up in that part of the game.
It makes a difference, man. It does in the outcome. It seems like every single year there's one thing you can point to in special teams. In 23, I think Texas blocked a punt to tie it. And when it looked like OU had all the momentum, then Oklahoma tried that kind of reverse trick play on the return that got called back because it was an illegal forward pass. And there's always something like that. I say there's something up someone's sleeve. I think Texas faked a punt that same game. So that's going to have an impact. But yeah, I see what you're saying about Hawk. It's weird to think that not having Mateer out there, but look, he's a gunslinger. Mateer takes chances. And in a game like this, it's going to be so down the stretch, so low scoring. Do you want just a game manager that's going to run the plays? I don't care. I think 10's got to be out there, but I see
Yeah,
your point.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. 10's got to be out there, but it's just kind of one of those. If you want to look at the bright side, if
Yeah.
for some reason 10's not out there, it may just be the fact, hey, just control the ball. You know, you don't have to score every drive, but how about two first downs? Just to keep that defense healthy. Because I mean, as good as Texas's defense is this year, and I think it's really good. The Oklahoma defense, I think, is another level right now
I agree with that.
than maybe anyone in the country. I mean, and it's slowly starting to grasp the rest of the country how good this defensive unit is. And that goes from the front line to even a secondary with Gilroy. Yeah, he's had a couple of moments, but they're pretty strong, and Eli Bowen's back. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous, Dave, how good this defense is.
No, they're going to be the best unit on the field Saturday across the board. They're one of the best in the entire country. It's kind of weird because you don't really have the playmakers that you usually see on an elite defense, like at linebacker in the secondary. There's not like any ball hawks making huge plays, but the front seven that we touted all offseason to be really good, we thought they would be, they have surpassed my expectations. And a big reason for that, David Stone in the middle. I mean, having a game wrecker like that can do things from the interior of a defense, you can't put a price on that. We heard Bob Stoops say it for years. These guys don't grow on trees. They're very few and far between. We saw Ed Oliver at Houston and the impact he made with his short time at the Cougars, including a win over Oklahoma, he was a big part of. But when you've got a guy like that in the middle, wrecking everything that forces you to the outside, and a defense as fast as Oklahoma sideline to sideline, that's why we're seeing Oklahoma lead the country in tackles for losses and sacks and number one total. I mean, just pull up defensive stats in the country. Oklahoma's number one, number two, number three, and pretty much every single one. David Stone, a big reason why.
And I think what people forget about with David Stone, because you're right, he's phenomenal. And last week he dominated. Kent State was bad. But think about this: Dominic and Jaden didn't play in that game.
Yep.
And I think one thing that's made him even go to another level in these big games, one thing that's made David, he's not starting. He's coming in next. So how would you like to be an offensive lineman and for, let's just say, three straight plays, you got to deal with Dominic and Jaden. And then all of a sudden, your best probably pure pass rusher and disruptor on the defensive line, you played 3 or 4 snaps against those two other big kids, and then here comes David Stone, and he's about to wreck shit. I mean, that's just kind of the thing. If you're an offensive lineman, that's your nightmare. It's like I've been playing all this time, and now they just put in this kid that is like
Yeah.
a, a beast. I mean, that's one thing I think that's making David even go faster to that elite level that people are talking about.
Randy, he might be the best overall player on this defense
Yeah,
as a
he's ridiculous.
as a true sophomore. I mean, he is doing things. He was a number one defensive tackle and a 5-star. Yeah, I know. Take stars, throw them out the window. They always say that stuff, but this is what that's supposed to look like on the field personified, a game wrecker from the interior. Oklahoma's got the pass rushers on the outside. You've got R. Mason Thomas. You've got Marvin Jones. You got Danny Okoye. Add another weapon to the mix there. Taylor Wine. They're going to make Arch Manning step up in the pocket. That's right where Oklahoma wants him with guys like David Stone and Jaden Jackson. Grayson Holton, another guy we've been even talked about. But this is why we thought that front would be so good. And Randy, the linebackers have been outstanding behind them. But when you've got these, I mean, beasts on the front, they're eating before the linebackers really have a chance to. I mean, it's a dominant front seven, top to bottom.
I mean, and I know we could go on about it all day because there. I don't look at the front seven, and I know you can say this about different areas and different teams. I'm not just saying this. There is not a weakness in the front seven. When you look at those linebackers and that deep, I mean, there's nobody you go, yeah, that 5 of the 7 are really good, but these two, that's where if you can exploit that. And I'll say this, Dave, even when you go into the depth chart, let's say Kobe's not in there, Asamigo coming in and playing, that's not a drop off. I mean, that's what's made this defense so electric. And you know what's funny? We haven't even talked Kendall Daniels.
Yeah.
He's been a freak for this defense. I mean, that's what makes you have to feel really good as an OU fan. win or lose this game, and I'm one that I've said all week long. That's why I'm okay with Mateer doesn't play. There's bigger prizes on the horizon for Oklahoma.
But Randy, it's Texas. You got to
Uh,
beat Texas.
I know, and it is an important game. But at the same time, if you're an Oklahoma fan, do you want to beat Texas and potentially have Mateer out for more weeks, and you end up losing 4, maybe 5 games this year because of that? Or do you want to roll the dice if he's not 100% and truly ready to go and go, all right, now we roll with South Carolina on with Mateer where he's 100% and you feel good about him lasting the year? I
Yeah,
mean, I know you got to
I get it.
claim, but there's just bigger things in this modern era of college football.
Got some guests rolling in. Of course, Joshy Manning, who will be joining us at 7:45 to talk about Texas. Chris Hayes. I had a chance to do an Inside Texas episode with Chris a couple weeks ago. Great guy, Georgia fan. He's a coach out there, knows his stuff. And, of course, Gmo, always keeping it real on the channel. Randy, Oklahoma top 5 in passing defense, rushing defense, total defense. It plays hand in hand, right? You get a pass rush that's going to help out your defensive backs. We're seeing that this year. You mentioned Cortland Guillory. Yeah, I mean, he's getting picked on. He's a true freshman. The opposing coaches know that. Even Kent State threw at him late in the game last week and drew a PI. I'm not worried about him on the field. What I am kind of concerned about, though, because this happens when you start getting, huh?
Chemtrails like Eddie Radosevich says. No, I'm
Oh
just kidding.
God, yeah. Keep the breathing good, Eddie. I'm here for that. What I'm worried about though with Cortland Guillory, you get a reputation from officiating crews in a certain conference that you're too physical. You draw flags, and in this game, the flags seem to fly pretty freely, especially when there are deep passes. I think Texas will try to exploit that and pick on the true freshman for Oklahoma a little bit. So that's even more onus on that front seven to get home against a pretty leaky Texas O line.
No, I think you're right, and that's one reason I don't think we've seen really that no one exploit a young cornerback in Gilroy, the pass rush you were talking about. That makes everyone better. Instead of having to hold coverage for 4 seconds, hey, guess
Sure.
what? I'm down to 2.5, 3 seconds before my defensive line's killing somebody. And so that makes all those guys better. And I am curious to see because I have zero complaints with Gilroy, but I am curious to see this week. Do we start seeing a little bit of the adjustment in the rotation if Eli's back 100% and truly ready to go, which he looked pretty good last week in the little bit that he played? Do you start seeing a little bit more in some of those crucial situations, especially a Gentry Eli cornerback situation, at times? Not taking anything away from the young kid, but you got a guy that's been out there and battled Ryan Williams before,
Sure.
or the young freshman. And so that's kind of what I'm waiting to see this weekend.
Yeah, I think the onus in this game is going to come down to the Oklahoma defense. They're going to be called upon to win it for OU, even when John Mateer has played this year. Look, just to call it like it is, Oklahoma has not been a juggernaut on offense. They played 2 pretty good defenses with Auburn and Michigan, and did enough to win that game. They had chances in both to kind of extend and give themselves some breathing room. Turnovers in both bit them that they have to avoid that in the Cotton Bowl. But I think if they're able to put together any type of a 2-score lead against Texas and put them in predictable down and distances, having to throw the football with Arch. I referenced that Texas O line, not good. Gave up a bunch of pressures last week to Florida, a bunch of sacks. This OU defensive front is on another level. They've got more speed on the outside. That would be a long day for Texas, Randy. So I suspect Sark working with kind of a limited O line and limited weapons. There's not a lot of separation from their wide receivers this year. They seem to be lacking a little bit of speed. The rushing game has not been there. Got some injuries to running backs as well, but it's going to kind of limit Sark. But I think he is a good enough play caller. He can kind of hone in on what's going to work against this OU defense and what's not. So I kind of expect, we talked ball control for OU. I kind of expect short passing with Texas. I expect them to utilize Arch in the run game, have some outside zone with the running backs, and try to stay ahead of the chains. That's the game plan I see. Going to be up to Brent Venables to match that with that OU defense.
I think you're right, but I'll be honest, and I've said it pretty much since about week 3. And it's nothing against Arch because I think he's going to be a good quarterback in time, and everything. Just people put way too much pressure on him this year.
That New
I
York
don't think,
Times article was so stupid,
yeah,
man. I'm sorry.
it's beyond dumb. It's
Yeah,
beyond dumb. But what I was going to say is, I've been saying since about week 3, Dave, this offense for Texas is Oklahoma's offense from 2024. I mean, look at their third down conversion rate, where they rank nationally. 123rd, I believe, is what it is.
yikes.
Do we remember what we were saying about Oklahoma last year? I think they were about 130th,
Pretty close, yeah.
last year. And that was their bugaboo. And the other thing, if you look at it, I think Saturday when they struggled again on third down, and this has been their problem, they're not missing on third and shorts. Texas, I believe, is averaging like their third downs are about 7.5, 8 yards every third down. That's not a good combination. And part of it is due to the running back. And we talked to Roger Wallace today, the color analyst for Texas, and he basically said when you talk about the running back position, they don't have a home run guy. They had Jaden Blue last year that could go
Sure.
home from anywhere on the field. They don't have that right now, especially with the injuries, and that doesn't look like it's going to get any better for this weekend. So I I think it's just important for Oklahoma's defense not to get too over anxious. Play to Texas's weaknesses in the sense of let them do their little things they've been doing just like they did against Florida, and you're going to come out on top more times than you're not.
Yeah, I like that. You have to think everybody's going to be amped up in this game, right? Oklahoma wants revenge from last year, and to be honest, year before last, they put some beatings on the Sooners. Oklahoma hasn't forgot that. They're practicing indoors due to chemtrails and wanting to be secretive, but they're gonna be out for blood against a team that is viewed as kind of wounded right now with Texas. You've got to be careful doing that. The emotion of the Cotton Bowl. I mean, if you're not careful in that first quarter, you can expel a whole lot of energy, and then later in the game, when it's still on the line and you weren't expecting it, that other team is creeping back slowly but surely. We've seen Oklahoma do that a lot the last decade back to Texas, but they do have the weapons on the outside. I referenced a lack of speed, but they do have guys that Arch can just put the ball up to, and they can make a play in the air. I mean, they've still got really capable wide receivers and tight
Yeah,
ends, just not the Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, the guys that Xavier Worthy, the Blazers we've seen the last few years, they don't have that. So I'm with you. Just play within yourself. If you're Oklahoma, Brent's going to want to bring the pressure fast and furious, but that leaves your guys on islands outside against pretty good wide receivers.
yeah, it does. But if it's kind of like what we talked about with college baseball, with OU when we talk about if you're going to be chaos, you got to run your system the whole time.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, you got to do it because hey, that's what's made this defense so good. But you don't have to risk any more than you normally would, and that's what I'm afraid of. Like you say, don't let the players, don't let the moment be bigger than what it is. If they can stay within themselves, I feel pretty good about what Oklahoma can do defensively against this Texas offense because I'm not just saying it. I don't feel like this Texas offense is much of a threat. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, I agree
the
with that.
their two best defenses they've played this year, and Ohio State's really good, and it's game one. They scored 7 points. They scored 20 points last week, and 7 of those 20 came on a short field after a turnover. So it's like if you just play your style, take advantage of the weakness on that offensive line, I feel like you can hold them in check. I mean, Dave, when you look at the two defenses they played, is Oklahoma just as good as Ohio State or better defensively?
Yes.
And they're definitely just as good, but better than Florida. And that's where I'm like, just play within yourself. Don't make the moment too big. And I feel like that's where this comes down to a fourth quarter game if that's what happens.
Yeah, I agree, but this game tends to be weird, Randy. We see offenses that haven't done much and they look kind of pedestrian. All of a sudden, throw the ball around the yard unexpected. I don't know.
Case in
I
point.
I'm sure you're the same way. I've taught myself to expect the unexpected in this game and at Cotton Bowl. But we've talked the defense versus Texas O. Now let's talk the Oklahoma offense against the Texas defense. You said it a second ago. Texas, yeah, they can play defense. They're top 5 in the country in total defense, even after loss to Florida. You got to worry if you're Oklahoma about this matchup. Colin Simmons versus your Simmons, Derek Simmons, because Derek Simmons against Kent State got whipped like a rented mule 2 or 3 times.
Which was weird. You got to admit, considering
Yeah,
the first games that he played against really good defenses, and Kent State's not a good defense.
no, but they used
He
a
looked really
stand-up
good.
speed rusher the same way Texas will use their Simmons, and that did not go
Yeah.
well. Bad.
Oh
So I
man.
mean,
Yeah.
I think Arbuckle's he knows. They've seen this on tape. They know where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are. You got to think they'll use a back to help chip. Maybe Canick stays in line and kind of helps out on that side. But as it goes to Oklahoma moving the football, if it's John Mateer, and then I think you think it will be as well.
Yeah, I'm leaning that way.
Yeah,
The more this week goes.
I think they're going to play to their strengths, Randy. They're going to spread them out five wide and throw the football. They're really good wide receivers. Keontez Lewis being on the injury report is questionable today. Nothing short of a miracle, as we all thought he broke his neck last week. Prayers up for that guy. Thank God he's okay. But we'll see if he plays, if he doesn't. But Giovanni Gibson making his entrance last week. The timing couldn't have been better with that injury and him playing the same spot. So they've got really good wide receivers, good slot guys underneath. They've got home run threats deep. So I think Arbuckle will say, you know what, we have not had much luck rushing. I don't expect it to improve against top five defense. We're going to do what we do. We're going to spread it out and throw the football.
Yeah, no, and I think that's what they'll come and do. But I also don't think they're going to totally abandon the run game. I mean, Florida, who again does not run the ball well, and they don't going into that game, they found something in a blocking scheme, whatever it was, and they were able to penetrate Texas's line, some and everything. So I expect them to try to do some things in the running game. We all know coaches watch game film, right? And if you
Sure.
don't think Bill Beanbo and Arbuckle are looking and going, why did that work running game wise for Florida against Texas? I guarantee you they at least try some of that. And I think they have to be honest with you. You
You know,
cannot totally give it up.
hang on. Chris Hayes is in here. He's a coach. To be honest, I didn't get to see much of the Texas game. I was coming back from Arkansas. Maybe you can tell us what Florida did. Was it zone blocking? Was it pulling? Was it GT counterplay? What exactly was it?
Yeah, I'd love to know because I mean, I was kind of shocked because Florida was not doing any. I mean, they hadn't ran the ball that much.
Gmo, Ott and Blaylock need 15 to 20. I'll take that to another level. I think Jade Knott needs 15 on his own from what I saw last week. Feed that guy and let him get better.
I would at least want to try him. I mean, it's funny. I know everyone's ripping him. Did we all expect him to go from not doing anything, right? Dave being so pedestrian, it's not funny, to being a home run threat immediately especially if it's been a mental thing.
No.
And I thought what I saw out of him Saturday, it gave you reason to go, all's not lost in this kid. In the sense of like, here you go. He's hitting some holes. He's showing a little burst, and he's making some movements. Was it perfect? No, but I think that's a reason why if you're the coaching staff, you start going, all right, let's see what we can do.
Yeah, I mean, look, I just said this with Tyler on the franchise Monday. I was impressed. I mean, I don't know what everybody's talking about ripping the guy. There were runs I saw, Randy, to where I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. That looks like 23 Jade, not at Cal. No, was it a 70-yard touchdown run? No, but it was better. It was a complete package that we haven't seen all season. It was suddenness, it was a burst, it was vision. And it was patience to set up blocks and all that we have not seen from one guy. I mean, Blaylock's been the closest, but he's a true freshman. You can tell at times. That with Jade Knott, I'm like, okay, now I get it. Feed this guy because he looks like he's going to get better the more touches he gets. I'll tell you what, if Oklahoma has the lead late in the game at the Cotton Bowl, having a run game is going to be important. I think Ott's a guy you can feature with it, at least him and Blaylock back and forth.
Well, no doubt. And you're right. It's going to be important. Look back to the Michigan game. They all of a sudden, in that 8-minute drive, decided we need to find a way to run the ball, and they did it. But if you have a guy that's got a little more explosion in him, like Jaden Knott, hopefully does, and Blaylock, that's a chance to do some good things, So I really like it, and so that's kind of the thing there. I look at everything with this OU team going in, it's just kind of like, here you go. Let's develop some of these guys. So, and I use develop strong, but use like this time to get Ott, and maybe even because to be honest, who Ott is, if he's healthy, when he was healthy, it's a little bit of Tory Blaylock. So even if it's nothing else, Blaylock being a sponge, learning from Ott, I think that is what's key right now. I know we talked about it a little. You said Lewis was on the injury report at questionable. This is like the best injury report I've ever seen out of Oklahoma since entering the SEC. I mean, it's pretty amazing. I mean, doubtful is Logan Howland, questionable is Lewis and Mateer. That's it. That's it. Three guys. I mean,
This is
granted,
the
there's
best it's
guys
been
that
all
are out.
season, Randy.
Yeah,
That's the shortest I've ever seen with Brent and Norman. That's crazy.
yeah,
That's really good news, though. I mean, they go into this relatively healthy. And look, we talked about it, right? It was good timing. You've got a bye week. You've got Kent State. We all said it. Good. Get healed up if you're Oklahoma. Go to the Cotton Bowl with your guns blazing, ready to go. But I mean, I said a second ago the onus is going to be on the OU defense. I stand corrected on that. I think the more I think about this, the unit on the field that this game is going to come down to win or losing for OU is the OU offense. What do they do against a top 5 national defense against Texas? Can they? I mean, have they played good? Yeah, John Mateer was a Heisman frontrunner. Have they played a complete, really good game? I don't think so. There's been lulls in every single one. Last week against a really bad Kent State team, I know Hawkins, the backup, was in, but you still expect more than 350 total yards and 44 points. It took almost 4 quarters to get there and a defensive score to help. So I think that's the unit really under the gun. They've taken leaps and bounds from last year. They're a lot better. Are they where I think they're going to be, or where I thought they'd be right now in the year? Not yet, but they got a big chance to show they've improved against a good defense.
yeah. And I will say this: that offense last week, having to watch that whole debacle of a game, which I could have cared less at the time. Part of it, they were very vanilla, and especially after they got those turnovers early down in the end zone and had a couple of short drives, especially after punt returns. I mean, Satania set them up at about the 30-yard line for 3 straight drives.
Right.
And I felt like it almost took away from us what we all wanted to see. We all wanted to see Hawkins get out there, see what he could do, see what this team could do. And all of a sudden, it's like, well, they're up 18, 19, nothing, and I just felt like they even went into probably more of a shell than what they were going to go into a shell.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
I agree. Look, and these guys are human beings. A lot of them are kids. You're going into a game you're not really fired up to play the week before you play your biggest rival. And literally, the first pass attempt of the game, your starting wide receiver runs into a brick wall, and it is a terrible scene for about 15 minutes. So they shut the game down, brought ambulances on the field, took him off in a stretcher. Nobody had any idea how he was, what was going on. Does he have movement? That's tough to swallow down and get back in the huddle and have to play football. I think that sucked the life out of an already lifeless game to begin with that they had trouble getting over. But yeah, I was just going to say, Gmo need to win the turnover battle. Yes, that plays into this game. Whoever wins that typically wins a Red River Shootout.
No doubt. And also, just real fast, who was it that asked this? Somebody asked if Mateer, Jimmy Satterfield wanted to see if Mateer was listed as questionable. Yes, he was listed as questionable on the injury report. Again, not many guys were. But yeah, the Lewis thing, I got to admit, Dave, I never thought they were going to lose the game, but as soon as that play happened on Saturday, I got back home and I'm watching it, and that was what, second play of the game, third
Yes.
as far as offensively or whatever.
Yes.
I sat there and I looked at my wife and I was like, "This game's going to get real ugly." And I didn't mean because someone's going to get blown out. I thought that's all they needed was that injury to probably for whatever they were maybe going to try out. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
something tells me they went, no more guys getting hurt. Let's get this over with. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay, I got some good stuff coming in from Chris Hayes talking about the Florida run game that had success against that Texas front. The first 5 run explosives were duo, X2, gap scheme, power, zone weak with tight end influence. Tight end influence widened their 6 tech and gave easy kick out underneath due to leverage. Okay, so for Oklahoma to exploit that, Jaron Canick's been really good blocking at tight end. He'll need to continue to do that, but the problem I've seen out of the OU running backs, not having the vision on those holes to cut back and the speed to get through them. I think Jaden Ott does. I think Blaylock has at times. But if they indeed try to copy what Florida did, these guys will have to have better vision than we've seen and hit the holes we have not seen them hit so far this year.
Well, and I think that's where Ott's key because I think we saw that on Saturday when there were actually holes and he let them develop. he saw them and hit them, that's where it's like, all right, again, I'm not asking for a guy to rack up 100 yards rushing. What I'm asking is, hey, every third carry, can you at least get five? You
Sure.
know, make it a 1st and 5 instead of a 1st and 9. It's like, and so if they can at least do that and make the running game somewhat of a threat, that's kind of another thing. And it's funny real fast, Dave, because of blocking. Gmo just put up nice to see Helms get some playing time. Yeah, and the TD last week. I think Kane Helms is another guy that can block pretty well. Where if they need to go to that two tight end game, instead of having to go to Kent or one of the other guys that isn't as much a receiver, you know, they can have two receiving threats out there that can also block.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it was good to see Helms finally out there. We've been talking about him for 25 years, and he's finally
No,
on the field making a touchdown. So, yeah, that does give Oklahoma some options at tight end. Really good stuff from Chris Hayes. Florida, they got the athletes to do that and the offensive line to do that. Like I said, I didn't see much of that game, but apparently had really good success running at the Longhorns. We'll see if Oklahoma can try that. I do agree, Jade Knott is the all-around package. From everything that I saw, I had to wonder if I was crazy until I walked into your office Monday and we kind of agreed what we saw, because I kept hearing that nobody was that impressed. And I'm like, were we watching the same game? Because I saw a guy that's capable of being an every down running back in the SEC. Newsflash, which is why he was brought to Oklahoma.
yeah, and I think also what you saw as a guy. I think I was trying to say this earlier and I got sidetracked, but a guy that has had mental issues as far as I think confidence wise to get back out there and playing on his leg. And what I saw Saturday reminded me of a guy that started to believe again. Again, not 100%. I'm good to go. I'm going to go kick ass like I was doing before the injury. But it was almost like, oh, I can make that cut. Oh, I can do this still. That's kind of what it reminded me of, and especially some of his early carries where he was really doing good about looking for the hole. And even on the screen pass, it was just kind of almost like it started slowly coming back to him like, oh, this is natural to me. And
Right.
that's why I'm kind of eager to see whether it is this week against Texas or South Carolina. I think it'll be one of the next 2 weeks. I'm kind of eager to see what he does moving forward because I don't think all is lost with him.
No, I don't either. In fact, I think, every time we talk to Rodney Anderson, former OU great running back, he always echoes what we talk about. A running back needs carries to get in a rhythm like anybody else. We talk about the O line working in tandem. The more of five play together, the better they get. Quarterback needs rhythm. A running back is no different. Jaden Knott, to me, has just not had a chance to get there this year. I mean, it might have been mental issues like he talked about. It could be the coaches not trusting him in one area that he had to improve on. I don't know. But what he gives Oklahoma is what you just talked about. You don't need a running game for this Oklahoma offense to win you games, but stay on schedule. And I think in this game in Dallas, that's going to be crucial. Keeping John Mateer out of 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. A run game is the key to doing that. Because guess what? Texas has pass rushers too that can get after it. So I think that's where this running game, whether it's Blaylock, whether it's somebody weird like Kanik taking snaps, I don't care who it is. Just keep Oklahoma ahead of the chains.
No doubt. And I'll say this, one thing that is scary about Texas line, we all talk about Colin Simmons because he's a freak of a player.
I think I know where you're
But
going.
before the Florida game, he had 7 tackles and 1 sack.
Yeah.
He hadn't done, exploded yet. Kind of like how we all talked about R. Mason Thomas before the Auburn game because, that's the one scary thing because the guy that's got that kind of talent, you're kind of going, okay, it's like, is this going to be the game he decides, I'm an All American. This is what I do. And that's just kind of the scary part there, I think. That's what scares me more with Colin Simmons in this game than anything. Is this the game he decides, oh, yeah, now I know what I'm doing?
Hadn't happened yet. I just knocked wood for all of Oklahoma when you said that. Randy, the scary thing that for Oklahoma fans, and look, I'm going to tell it like it is. This is a dangerous Texas team this weekend. Coming off a loss, they are fighting for their season. Everything, all the expectations they had to start the year are done if they lose this. Not to mention the fact it's the biggest rival they have on their schedule. So for a fan base, it's already kind of, freaking out over 2 losses. This would bring things right back where they need to be in Austin. They're coming to fight, and they're coming to win the game, and they've got enough talent to do it. I mean, I think the demise of Texas has greatly been oversold. So has maybe how good Oklahoma really is top to bottom. Yeah, they got the best defense in the country, a really good special teams unit. beyond that, it's been a little bit dicey at times this year. So this is no guarantee for Oklahoma to walk into the Cotton Bowl and win this game.
No doubt about it. I mean, we're looking at Texas. They lose this game, they're probably a five-loss team. You know, and that's going to be very interesting. That's one reason this team is going to try to fight for their lives because they're in that locker room. They know what's being said about them, and if they lose this game, everything with those guys that came back this year that
Yep.
transferred in for it's gone. Because if they lose to Oklahoma, they're not going to do it anyway. But they're damn sure not going to Athens and winning. You know, they're not doing that. That's four losses. And then A&M is no gimme at the end of the year for them either. I mean, that's a five-loss season coming off the preseason, what, number one ranked team in the country?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Arch Manning, the Heisman Trophy favorite. I mean, that you got Vandy still if you're Texas. That's no gimme. The way it looks right now, yeah, Texas A&M is. Look, A&M's good. We'll bounce around the SEC a little bit, but there is one game in the SEC I wanted to touch on this week, and I find interesting. Alabama, written for dead after Florida State trounced them. Even though Ty Simpson looked really good in that game, they've got their stuff together now against a Missouri team that, look, because Drinkowitz is their coach, I can't take them serious, and I never will be able to. But they've got a really good rushing game, and I think they've got a good chance to beat Alabama and Columbia, but I'm still taking the Tide.
I think as crazy it is, you know how I feel about it. I think I'm actually taking out Missouri this weekend.
Oh,
I'm I'm still not really impressed with
no.
Alabama. I mean, if Diego doesn't give them two turnovers, that's a ball game in Tuscaloosa. And to your point, I like the running game from Missouri on their home field.
Yeah.
And I kind of think if they can ball control, which I think they might be able to against that Alabama defense, that's going to make it a very close game in the fourth quarter. And give me a ball control team in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I don't know. It's 11 o'clock, all right, at Faro Field. I think Alabama dodged a bullet not being a night game up there. And there's something about Alabama to where you can start off really good against them and feel really good, but they just wear you down throughout the course of the game and eventually just lean on you until you fall over. So I like the Crimson Tide to win that, but Missouri does have a really good rushing attack. Outside of that, another interesting one: Florida coming off the big one against the Longhorns against Texas A&M. Yeah. Sorry, Billy, you got your one upset. Georgia Auburn. That's an interesting one. Jackson Arnold against the Bulldogs. A win like that would probably ease their fan base. Auburn does have a really good front seven, one of the better you'll see in the SEC. I still like Georgia to win because hey, Jackson Arnold's Auburn's quarterback.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I mean, and to me, it's not just Jackson Arnold. Hugh Freeze is the coach at Auburn. I mean, it's a double combination. I mean, and I like Georgia still. It's hard for me. You know what? You talk about Alabama. I at least know the coach that coaches that style and can do that to a team is still
Sure.
on the sidelines in Georgia. DeHore's on the sidelines in Tuscaloosa. So, you know, I mean, yeah, I have zero faith in Alabama when it comes to DeHore.
Oh, we'll tip our toe out of the SEC for a second. This one's kind of intriguing, a little local flavor once back in the day. USC and Michigan, the Fighting Lincoln Riley. That game's out at the Coliseum, I think. Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Dude.
USC coming off a tricky spot. You know, they lost the Illini, in a classic sleepwalk Lincoln Riley game. And now they've got a really good Michigan Wolverine team. Justice Haynes, I think, going for his sixth game over 100 yards. I like USC in the bounce back spot. I just do. I don't know why. Call me nuts, but Lincoln wins this game.
I'm going to call you nuts because I think this could get ugly. I mean,
And trounces them, huh?
well, I just think Michigan's going to manhandle them. I've watched USC a lot this year. I think their offense is good, which you'd expect. But I think defensively, even though they've made improvements, that line for Michigan is going to just swallow up the USC defense. I mean, I think Haynes, to your point, is going to run the ball, and they still have Lincoln Riley on the sidelines to make a dumbass move somewhere during the game. And that's kind of the other part. But I kind of think Michigan wins this by 10 to 14 points on
Okay.
Saturday.
I wouldn't cry if that happens. I'll be pulling for the Wolverines.
Even though
Yeah. Like, let's keep it the Big Ten. I guess the biggest one nationally, since Texas couldn't get it done last week. Indiana and Oregon. A lot of Indiana love nationally. People saying they've got the team to contend, and I don't care. Give me Dan Lanning and Oregon all day, every day. I think they win by 10 plus.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm not impressed with Indiana. Yes, was it Illinois they trounced a few weeks ago?
Yeah,
How good is Illinois? I
exactly.
mean, I think they're decent. Like Illinois' got a big game this weekend. Is it Ohio State, Illinois, I think this weekend? You know, I mean, they've got a big game, but again, I don't expect them to be great. And so I just don't think Indiana's ready to compete with Oregon and the athletes are going to throw at them.
What about yeah, you're right. Ohio State, Illinois. I think Ohio State wins by 2 touchdowns, but that is in Champaign. Brett Bielema might have something up his sleeve. That'll be a fun one to watch. South Carolina, LSU. That's intriguing. LSU's had some of the shine knocked up them from the preseason. Lenoris Sellers, South Carolina, not exactly what people thought, but I kind of see this one going down to the wire.
I'm right there with you, and I kind of think South Carolina may win it. Unless LSU during this bye week figured
Figured it
out
out.
what's wrong with their offense, they're in some big time trouble. Even though that defense is great, if you don't have any form of offense to back you up, you're not going to win some games when you got a quarterback as dynamic as Sellers on the sideline because he's still going to score some points even if they don't score as many as they usually do. And I don't know if LSU can keep up with it unless they figured out an offense in a bye week.
Yeah, I don't know. Nussmeier, the rumor is he is battling some kind of an injury. I've even heard surgery is an option. I don't know, but the guy is not right. He's not what I thought coming into the year. So
His
I'm kind of
injury is his injury is Brian Kelly's as head coach.
at least he's not putting them up to take pictures at practice. Oh, low blow. Sorry. I mean the slate kind of sucks to be honest with you.
I mean,
Outside of
decent games, but not great. Yeah,
Bama, Missouri, Ohio State, Illinois. I mean, yeah, Oregon, whatever. The big
yeah.
one, Oklahoma, Texas. That is why we bring on my boy that's always loyal and true, Joshy Manning, to talk a little Oklahoma, Texas. Josh, how you
Hey,
doing, brother?
Josh.
Hey, Dave. Hey, Randy. I'm always thrilled to be on my favorite Sooner podcast / live show. Long time, first time, so I appreciate having me on. But, you know, Dave, I had such a nice monologue prepped, right before you started. And, I was going to talk about how this is a culture game and how Steve Sarkisian has sat there consistently and talked about how he has built a culture for the past 5 years in this program. How this is the type of games that this program has wanted to play since he got here, right? The reason why he came to Texas was to play in games like this. And then you said the phrase, Texas is back, is against the wall. And that sums up exactly what happens here. This could be the most dangerous 2-loss team in the country right now, right? Sure, we can talk about the problems at the offensive line, which are plenty, which I'm sure we're going to get into in a minute. We can talk about the inconsistency of Arch, which I'm fine with doing. We can talk about how the secondary looked pedestrian against Florida, who DJ Lagway, previous to that wasn't really anything special. Actually, he was abysmal. But at the end of the day, this is a lot of talent on this side of the field. And I'm glad y'all at least respect that, because I've seen on Sooner Twitter, this is going to be a blowout. They've seen that. I just don't see that happening, man. I don't see that happening.
No, Josh, we're in agreement, man. There's not a more dangerous team anywhere in college football this weekend specifically, on top of everything else you just mentioned. They're fighting for everything that they had preseason, expectation-wise, and, oh, by the way, against their biggest rival on the schedule.
Yep.
So, yeah, we're going to leave it all on the field. They've got everything to play for, and really at this point, a whole lot to lose. And that Texas defense is really good. That hadn't changed. I think the demise of Texas has been greatly oversold, along with Arch Manning. He hasn't really been the problem in a lot of games I've seen. That offensive line is very leaky. The wide receivers don't seem to have the speed we've seen the last couple of years. Not a lot of separation. The run game hasn't been there. I mean, that's a whole lot of negative that Tech's gonna have to overcome. But you're right; they've got a lot of talent on that roster.
So, you bring up a good point about kind of how this roster's been constructed, and I think I've been decently critical about how I thought that Steve Sarkisian has built this thing this year. The offensive line is kind of what scared me, just as an initial thought. I sat there and said the receivers are going to be great. I thought Wingo was going to be the number one guy, like a clear, undisputed number one. That just hadn't materialized yet. Talking Jimmys and Joes, I don't think that there is a more lopsided matchup right now than Jaden Jackson and David Stone on the inside against whatever that left guard center combo is going to be, right? I mean, I don't know if you guys have talked about it or you guys have seen. The starting left guard is a true freshman, right, who got play time in the Florida game last week, who I don't know if y'all saw the PFF grades. He had a 0 in the pass block grade, which is just, and that's going to kill you when you can't run the ball, when everyone's going upfield at about 8 jillion miles an hour. You're a true freshman fighting off a 5-star in David Stone, who, I'm sure he's looking forward to proving Bobby Burton wrong, who said he was a, quote, 3-star. And then Jaden Jackson, who's been an excellent interior defensive lineman. I am concerned about that matchup. That is the lopsided matchup for me. I am also curious to see what Steve Sarkisian actually schemes up, because if I know you've watched some Texas, it seems to be the same playbook each and every single time. There's no adjustments made. We're trying to get 20 yards down the field to develop these routes when in reality we get about a second and a half. So this is as much of a big game for the Longhorns as it is for Steve Sarkisian. Sark has to figure this out, because Brent Venables, as we know, is one of the best defensive minds in the country. He's going to have a plan. He is a better defensive coordinator than Matt Patricia is. He's a better defensive mind, at least in the college game, than he is. So my question becomes, what does the offense look like? Because if it resembles anything like it did last week against Florida, we may not score. We may not get into the double digits, to be quite honest with you.
Josh, that's kind of what I was talking about on the radio today with Dave. I mean, it's just kind of one of those deals. I don't think it's going to be a blowout either, but it's one of those. I look almost at Texas's offense and I wonder, how are they going to come up with any points with what they've been doing so far? Right. Because they can't run the ball, and if they keep going those deep routes, you're going to get Arch killed.
Yep.
And that's the thing, because we were talking about, I'm sure you heard, but when you mentioned, Jaden and Dominic will start, and all of a sudden that young guard is going to have to go up against film for 2 or 3 plays, and then guess what? Here's going to come David Stone, fully fresh and ready. I mean, those are just killer moves, I think, right now. I don't know how Texas can combat that right now, what game plan they come up with the running back situation they got.
Let me. We're throwing a lot of fuel on the Texas has no chance fire. Let me put that out for a minute. Look, Sarkisian isn't a dumb guy. He's a very skilled play caller. He's been around the game. He knows what we're talking about. I think we're going to see a game plan that gets the ball out of Arch Manning's hands faster than we've seen, right? If you can't block it, you can't throw it. I think they're going to try to go to the short passing game as an extension of that run game. They're going to try to mix in Arch in the run game. And instead of the big home run, they're going to try to stay ahead of the chains on schedule, move the ball methodically down the field, keep it away from Oklahoma at the same time. And that's how I think Texas attacks this game. You can't just drop back and hope to get the deep post or a deep seam and have 4 to 5 seconds against this defense. He knows that. So I think he's going to scheme up some stuff that Brent is going to have to adjust to, at least in the first half.
Hey, Josh, I'm going to ask you this. Dave says he thinks he's going to do this. You're a Texas guy. You've watched him all year long. I've watched him quite a bit. As a Texas guy, do you really have faith that he's going to do that when you consider he didn't make any adjustments at Ohio State, didn't make any adjustments even in the crap games that they played before Florida, and still ran that same game plan against Florida? That's kind of my question with Sark right now, because it's not like at that point in time he was holding anything back going, we don't want Oklahoma to see this.
Correct. So, Dave, I'm going to hit you with a nice little throwback here. So back in 2022, during Quinn Ewers' first year, Texas played Oklahoma State in maybe the world's ugliest game, right? Maybe the world's ugliest game. Every single time, all Quinn Ewers was doing was essentially throwing the ball up in the air with the wind blowing against him. Every single time. He completed 17 for 47. That, at that point, concerned me. There's nothing I have seen really that Sark likes making adjustments. He's stubborn. It is his way or the highway. He's the Tom Landry of college football coaches, and I'm not saying that in terms of Super Bowl, but I mean, if you guys, history, historians of the sport. He cried whenever Roger Staubach came because why? He broke his system. I think Sark is under the impression, and rightfully so, right? I think he's gotten some really good offenses. I think that 2020 Alabama offense is still is the probably second or third greatest amalgamation of talent in college football, maybe behind that 2019 LSU team. But he has gotten the reputation that he is an offensive guru. He has taken that, reputation, obviously, done fairly well for himself. But at the same time, he believes in what he does. And he'll talk about it too, right? He'll talk, for example, how he's done practices this year. Our practices are a little bit different than everyone else's because it's the NFL model, right? And Sark is such a believer in the NFL model that he's willing to kind of take things that have been tried and true, right? Physical practices, things like that, and kind of adjust it to where doing something that he thinks is correct and not really adjusting on what the reality is. I think that's kind of what's going to happen here. I think if it works, it's going to be a miracle to God and we're going to win the game, I think. If it doesn't work, right, if it does not work, then we're going to have a really big problem because I think we're going to be doing the same thing over and over again. And I'm telling you what's going to happen. If it doesn't work, what's going to happen is they're going to start doing the screen game. And what's Brent Venables going to be prepped for? Get ready for the screen game. They can't go downfield because you know what's going to end up happening? We're not going to be able to run the ball. We couldn't run it against Florida. Why should we think in any sort of world that we're going to be able to run it against Oklahoma, who has a better defensive line? Florida may have equivalent linebackers, but the Oklahoma defensive line is much more impressive than the Florida line. Now, I caveat this with saying we saw what happened last week when this offense worked. When it worked, it was it's the what do we call it? The Sark something. It's basically where you just have all these points in a very short amount of time, right? If that happens once this game, I think that may be a little too much for Oklahoma to come over with. And I know I have kind of shat on Texas for the past 10 minutes since I've been on here, but I actually think that's kind of how this goes because this game is unlike any other game in college football. This is essentially an NCAA tournament game, right? It's all about the momentum. Every single game I have ever watched and every single game you've ever watched is you have known there's a particular point, and I'll give you an example. When my wife passed the bar back in 22 or 21, the Caleb Williams Spencer Rattler game, right? I remember the moment that momentum flipped, and I said, oh shit, we were up by 3 touchdowns, but I knew exactly what was happening. I say all of that to kind of put the point in that I think as a momentum aspect, I think Texas has the ability to gain momentum at a more likely than OU, right? John Mateer, if he plays, great playmaker. Nobody's going to deny that. I think the problem that OU is going to find, in my opinion, is I think the wide receiver core and the skill position specifically, I think are probably going to be the third best that Texas plays, and I think that's going to create problems. Where I do think OU or Texas's skill positions probably second best behind Auburn, right? Singleton and Cam Coleman are two of the best or the best duo in college football, one of the best, but Jackson Arnold couldn't get him the ball. So the question becomes, can Arch get the ball to the receivers? If he can at 50%, I think 55%, I think Texas has a good shot winning this one.
Yeah, I think you're right. Arch is the biggest wild card in this whole thing. Can he actually find guys on deep patterns? That's the other thing. We talk about the receivers, Dave, and Josh. You watch these Texas games, it's not always because the receivers aren't open.
No.
It's because Arch is overthrown them by 10, 15 yards.
Correct.
Or underthrown them by 5 or 10 yards. And so that's kind of the deal with, we can sit here and criticize Sark and think of game plan, but until Arch proves he can do it, which I think right now, and I said this the other day, for me, Arch is in this scary situation. It's like I've always said about NFL guys. In my opinion, you never want to be an NFL quarterback that goes number 1 because usually you're going to a shitty situation and you're getting ready to get abused and you get mental. This is the type of game in the stretch coming up where they're going to have Oklahoma and then Georgia in a few weeks.
Yep.
That if they don't figure it out with how to block Arch and give him actual time to stand in the pocket, it's going to start becoming a mental thing for Arch.
Yep.
We've got a comment. This is Josh Illusion. I don't know what that's referencing.
I know. Yeah. You should you shouldn't share the streaming information with some of your friends who are Big 12 guys.
But I'll say this: Gig and Bart. You said Coleman and Singleton the best duo, and he's got like questioning. Josh is meaning who Oklahoma played,
Yeah.
not taking anything away from Concepcion and Carver from A&M.
But yeah, Coleman and Singleton.
But Coleman and Singleton are pretty damn good.
I would put them up against anybody in college football.
I'm right there with you.
I'll wrap it up with this, boys. To me, all right. Look, I was trying to give you some hope, Josh. I agree. Yeah, Sark is stubborn. He likes to push the ball downfield. I think he's going to try to do that. My concern, if you're Oklahoma, if they hit one, if they hit two, if they draw a PI and score, I don't know if Oklahoma's offense, even if John Mateer plays against this Texas defense, can answer when they have to have it, especially if that momentum flips. On conversely, if Oklahoma gets the lead early in this game and puts Texas into predictable down and distances where Arch has to throw with that defensive front and the crowd behind them, that could be a long day for the Longhorns. But I'll leave it at this. Whoever wins a turnover battle and runs the football better wins this game every single year. I like Oklahoma, but close. I'm going to have it 27-21. OU wins.
Yeah, I went ahead and I said 24-13 Oklahoma in this one. I think they get a touchdown late, and I just look at it. I mean, and the only reason I say 13 for Texas, 7 against Ohio State, 20 against Florida, 7 of those came on a short field. I don't see them scoring against Oklahoma's defense when they couldn't score against those other two. That's just kind of my thought there.
So, Dave kind of said this earlier on. If Texas loses this game, the season's over, right? It's just done. You can beat Georgia, you can beat A&M, whatever, and which we won't if we lose this game, right? But this is the test, right? This is what is this team made of? I just do not see a world right now, given what we know about OU, given kind of what we know about what our defense can be, what we've at least seen from Arch in terms of the whatever you want to call it, the playmaking ability. I just don't see that season coming to an end on Saturday. Fair. Give me Texas 31-27. I'm going to throw it. I have decided, I said everybody told me last week you're crazy for taking the over in the Florida game, but I did it. So I think expect the unexpected in these games. I will talk ad nauseum about these defenses and how good I think they are, but this is Red River. It makes no sense. Throw everything out, right? Expect the unexpected. This is March Madness. I'm taking Texas 31-27.
Everybody says this. Feels like a 10-7 game. Going to be a nasty defensive slugfest. You can't go into this predicting what's going to happen. Expect the opposite. So that's kind of why I see a game in the 20s. If it goes to the 30s, I'm not going to be surprised. I mean, shit just happens in this game.
I'm going to be honest. I'll be surprised.
You should be.
And that goes for both teams, because even the 24 that I said 13, I'm counting on that being like a pick six late in the game that Arch throws. I look at these teams. This reminds me more of, we all remember the Superman game. What was the final in that game? 12-7?
Yep.
Two great defenses with very questionable offenses. It's kind of what I feel like this game is again. I get what you're saying. We always expect the unexpected. But sometimes when we've had enough tests to see in front of us, Michigan, Oklahoma, Auburn, Oklahoma, Texas, Ohio State, Florida, Texas, I think these teams are what we see. And it's going to be a grinded out year for both of them, I think.
And I think you're right. That one thing is, look, I'm going to be there standing in 90-degree heat. I know Dave's going to be there. I want to see an offensive slugfest. I want to see a Big 12 style battle, because that's going to be electric. Like the 23 year, except backwards. Opposite. But
Josh, those days are dead. These are SEC teams. It's all about the trenches where it's supposed to be. They got it on one side, both of them, not the other.
Who are we kidding, guys? Did you know that the SEC needed Oklahoma and Texas to come in to show them how to play defense? I mean, for God's sakes. It took 2 years, and they went, all right, bitches, set to the side. We're going to show you how to play defense.
I don't see another SEC team in the top 10. So, there's merit to that. Both done a great job building this. When it comes down to it, who's going to make plays, hang on to the football, special teams, another thing to always watch in this game. But, Josh, you've been great. Appreciate you hopping on tonight.
Appreciate you having me. Hey, and obviously we'll continue to be a long time listener. Even if the score goes against my way, I'll come and mess with y'all.
All right, one more comment. Highly doubt that's going to happen, particularly with both these defenses. Yeah, but once again, expect the unexpected. All right, for Josh Manning, my boy, Randy, the dangerous.